All right. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining today's webinar. Before we get started, I do want to remind you that your lines are muted. So if you have any questions or comments, please submit them through the Q&A feature and we will respond accordingly. I'm really excited today because we have our friends and partners with Empower and Pentegra joining us to talk about the 401k plan PEP solution. So today we have Brian Lynch and Jason Holmberg with Empower, Brian Lynch with Pentegra, and then RPAG's very own Jesse Taylor, the VP of Business Development, joining us today. So it's my pleasure to first introduce Jesse to kick off the call.
Thank you, Leah, and thank you everyone for attending today. I'll remind everyone first that you feel more than welcome to chat or use the Q&A feature, and we'll be trying to answer as much of that as possible during the call, as well as after the call with follow-up emails. We're very excited to be talking to you all today about our partnership with Empower and Pentegra for the 401k plan PEP Pooled Employer Plan Solution. They have been amazing partners over the past year plus of us working out this solution with them. And this is all driven by the RPAG members asking our team for to work on a PEP solution that RPAG members can take advantage of for situations that may call for it. And this is all driven by the market, right? At RPAG, we want to serve you as the advisors. We want to serve you and give you the solutions you need to be successful. And with the, I'd say the market forces driving PEP plan solutions, we wanted to find great partners that can deliver on that for in a various manner. We have a couple different PEPs that we're starting to roll out, and Pentegra and Empower, and this solution is the first of those solutions. And we've had a little bit of a beta launch with a couple of advisor and teams out there, and it's gone very, very well. We've had a great number of companies already into this PEP, and the team is telling me there's over $1 billion of proposal activity in terms of assets coming towards it. So great momentum. In some of the initial conversations we've had with some of you out there, there's a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of excitement, and I think it's going to be a great solution for your clients that may warrant this. Let's say maybe some of your clients where you might not be as profitable in terms of the business that how you're serving them today. And this is a great way to shift some of that work, so you're saving time while you remain as a key relationship and point of contact with that client, as well as take advantage of the negotiated costs of the CITs that we've rolled out to make sure that this PEP has a very competitive investment landscape. For us, we wanted to use this webinar and give you time to talk to and hear from the experts here. And so that's why we have Pentegra and Empower. And I'm going to be passing over to Brian Lynch, who's a regional sales director for Pentegra, who is our TPA partner with this PEP. And he's going to be sharing a lot of the advantages to this PEP and what they bring to the table. So I'm going to pass it over to Brian.
All right. Thank you, Jesse. Really happy to be here. Want to thank all of you for joining us. Want to thank RPAG and Empower for having Pentegra on board with this. And we're really excited about the 401k plan. So as Jesse said, my name's Brian Lynch. I'm a regional sales director with Pentegra. So I'm responsible for distribution through my territory here in the Mid-Atlantic area, but also have a dual role where I'm the lead relationship manager with RPAG from Pentegra. So been a big part of building out the 401k plan. Three things I want to cover today. First, I'm going to just give you a little bit of background about Pentegra, who we are and what we do in this, a little bit about PEPs in general, and then of course the 401k plan specifically. So if we could move to the next slide, please. So Pentegra really is built to be a PEP partner. Our history goes back almost 80 years. And we started as a plan administrator for multiple employer plans. In fact, we were the administrator for the Federal Home Loan Banking Association plan, multiple employer defined benefit plan. So we've had we've had fiduciary experience 30 years prior to ERISA passing, and really understand these multiple employer structures. As I said, we started as a fiduciary, and we think of ourselves as a fiduciary firm, not just a TPA. So we feel we are uniquely qualified to handle all the administrative work, but we also feel that as a fiduciary, not only do we do the work, we do it well, and we take responsibility. And that's where we believe we're very well positioned to serve as the pooled plan provider. And that's one of the roles that's required of a PEP. And what makes a PEP a little bit different is the fact that you have that triple P, as I'll call it going forward, and that is the role we play in this. So if we go to the next slide, just wanted to give you a little update about, PEPs. If you're not aware, Secure 1.0, we may be at Secure 2.0 here shortly, but Secure 1.0 back in 2019 created PEPs. And really, a PEP is just a type of multiple employer plan. It's really the answer to an open multiple employer plan. IRS actually restricted the idea of an open multiple employer plan about 10 years ago. And this was seen as a way to help employers get access to a well-run plan. Unlike an old-fashioned MEP, the startup time and establishment is a little easier because you don't need anyone to be a lead employer. You don't need anyone to be on a board in order to create it. This is created, and really the only decision the plan has to make is to adopt into it. And of course, a PEP is considered a single plan for reporting and audit purposes. So once this reaches the audit level, and there's two ways to do that, it's either through 1,000 participants or more, or once an audited plan joins, it does become an audited plan. It will be audited as one. Good news is the audit cost is included in the fees that we're going to that we can discuss later. If we move to the next slide. One thing that we've seen over the last 10, 15 years of legislation and retirement plan adoption has been this idea that plans want things done for them. And I think the evolution started with the participant. I started my career in 2001 and sadly had to watch some of the big companies like Enron go down. And one of the biggest tragedies of that was the amount of company stock that participants had in their 401k plan. So of course, when the company went down, they lost their savings as well. And with the Pension Protection Act, you had the qualified default investment alternative, you had the automatic enrollment, and really set the course for plan sponsors to be able to do a lot of the tough decision-making for participants, to really give them that experience that many had prior to the DC world taking over, where retirement planning was done for you. You worked for a company and they put money into a retirement plan, they invested it for you, and you retired, and our grandparents or parents got a check every month. It was because it was done for them. And we've seen that evolution for the participant, where a lot of the tough decisions and things are done for them. The PEP, think of it as a way of, this is done for the plan sponsor now. A lot of that work that plan sponsors are responsible for can be outsourced. All that responsibility can be outsourced. Now, while you're outsourcing a lot of the responsibility, you still get the benefit of allowing decisions and plan provisions to align with what their goals are for the plans. So you can still have key decisions in plan design as far as employee and employer contribution. Loans and withdrawals, yes, you can have them. Loans, the one PEP level restriction that'll be on the next slide when we get there, you can only have one outstanding loan per participant if you adopt into this. But you can still have that automatic enrollment, and you can have vesting and eligibility schedules that meet whatever your plan wants to have. So again, a lot of outsourcing done for you. You get the benefit of the professional service providers doing that heavy lifting, but you can still get a lot of the plan level provisions and flexibility that align with whatever the company or adopter wants to accomplish with their plan. I mentioned some restrictions. If we do move to the next slide, the only PEP level restrictions that Pentegra and Empower have, definition of compensation, and actually this isn't really a restriction. We just begin it with W-2 being the definition, but we can accommodate other rules as far as what you want to include in compensation. This is really a MEP rule, the second one you see there. So if you do have a participant that goes from one adopting employer to another, they do get the service credit for having been in the plan, because again, it's treated as a single plan. So therefore the vesting and eligibility will not change. We don't see this as big of a deal in the open PEP like we did in the closed MEPs. because most of the time you had a nexus of same industry in those, but it is a factor. And oh, by the way, it's a factor that as the triple P, Pentegra worries about, not the adopting employers. I already mentioned the loan provisions. You can only have one outstanding loan. So one question we do get around this is, let's say you come from a plan that allows 3. What happens? Well, when you adopt into the plan, it would merge down to the 1 loan. And of course you wouldn't be able to take any more until those loans are paid back. And then the final restriction is forfeitures. You cannot use them to offset plan expenses currently in this. Moving on to the next slide. Just wanted to highlight at a very high level. Many of you are probably very familiar with working with Empower and the experience of onboarding. The PEP is a little different. Not going to get into too much detail on this slide because it's a lot, and certainly we can hand the slides out and you can learn more about this. But it is a very different process because you are outsourcing a lot of the fiduciary responsibility to Pentegra and to FlexPath, which we'll talk about a little bit. There's a little bit more upfront work that is done and a lot of document collection, a lot of just due diligence to make sure that everything's in good order. So our experience in having rolled this out and rolled out PEPs in general, it may not be the same exact experience you have with a single employer plan at Empower, but once you're on board, once the plans are there, it's a very different experience when it comes to day-to-day responsibility, headaches, and administration of the plan. So I'm happy to talk more about this if you do have questions, but just wanted to make you aware that it is a little different from how you may have experienced onboarding a single plan. With that, I think we're going to save questions to the end. I have the great honor of introducing my partner in this, Marty Smith. He and I have worked together for many, many years. Great partner, both in the local territory as well as just helping us to understand PEPs. And Marty's going to talk more about Empower's role in the pooled employer plan. So with that, Marty, I will hand off to you.
Perfect. Thank you, Brian. And I appreciate you saying it's an honor. I'm not sure that's true, but I appreciate it anyhow. It sounded very nice. I owe you one. I'll get you a drink next time we're out. But thank you all for being here today. I'm going to take a little bit and talk a little bit about Empower and how we're very similar to how we are in any type of plan and what the differences are here. And really, I've sold a number of these plans with some advisors in the beta stage already, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So on the left-hand side here, really stability, scale, and leadership. The reason that matters to you is it's allowing us to continue to reinvest in our retirement business and continuing to be the leading innovator when it comes to employee tools and resources and employer tools and resources. You can see some of the numbers over there, 1.2 trillion and 17 million individuals. I think more importantly to a lot of our advisors and consultants we work with, in particular, the RPAG individuals, we're the largest provider in the country in that small and mid-sized business, and we always intend to be that largest provider in the country. So it's a huge focus for us. And then on the right-hand side, one of the things you can see is, over 20 years of experience with MEPs, PEPs, PEOs. We have over 53 MEPs, 5,000 adopting employers, and $6 billion in AUA. And also important is just because it's a PEP compared to, a regular standalone 401k with either a TPA or bundled, that experience for the employee at Empower is exactly the same. So that world-class innovative participant experience that comes, that's the same thing that a McDonald's, a Lockheed Martin, a JP Morgan, Apple has. It's exactly the same employee experience. So that's not any different in how the employee sees it. It's just it's an adopting employer instead of the employer inside that plan. So exactly the same experience. I'm not going to read all of this, but a few things I want to highlight, and Brian really talked about it there, of allowing employers to offload that fiduciary liability. One high level thing is that very first piece, service model design for our PEP partners. One of the things we do differently at Empower than some other organizations may do as they create PEPs, our PEPs are always with a partner, like an RPAG or a Pentegra. So there's a lot of providers out in our industry that have created PEPs to go direct. I won't name names, but so they can sell plans directly to a plan sponsor or adopting employer. That is not how we do it. We are always have an intermediary in between us and the client. And you can call yourself an advisor, a consultant, RIA, makes no difference to us. You're in between us and the client, and that's how we do it. Secondly, Brian hit on this from an advisor's perspective. One of the reasons we're seeing a lot of guys and ladies use this PEP is it's increasing that efficiency for you. So if you think about it this way, when you have 5 or 10 or 15 plans in this PEP and they all have the same lineup and they're all 338, it's making it very efficient for you to help that client while you're getting in kind of that revenue that's being squeezed. You're much more efficient in servicing that client. And that's why a lot of our teams are putting so many of their plans into this PEP. Secondly, one of the things I'd say for you is it's building this wall around your client base. And here's why I say that. You have a 316 to cover fiduciary, you have a 338 covering fiduciary, you have an institutional lineup. But more importantly, if another advisor comes in to BOR this plan, they would have to convert the plan out. It's not a BOR anymore. It's a full plan conversion because this PEP is only for the RPAG individuals. So if you have another advisor come in, you're really protecting yourself where they can't just say, hey, sign this letter. It's a full plan conversion for them, that adopting employer, to come out of the PEP. Very important. And then from the client's perspective, it's really protecting you from them going somewhere else because it's so easy and they have all the fiduciary protections that are available out there. So it's not like another advisor is going to come in and say, oh, well, I can give you a 338 or, oh, I can give you this. You're protecting them. And one of the things I always say about clients is clients have 10 things on their plate. You know, we all like to think the retirement plans number 4 or 5. It's probably somewhere closer to 8 or 9 or 10. So if you can take that worry off their plate and now they have 9 things instead of 10, they look at you as that trusted consultant. Lastly, investment lineup. A few of the things I want to highlight here is you see a lot of CITs in this lineup, obviously, and that's really driving that investment cost down. On the right-hand side, you can see all the RPAG scores you use. But one of the things I want to highlight is that CIT expense. When you look across this lineup, it's about 18 basis points on average. It scores great, low cost in these CITs. Most importantly, one of the things I'd say is interesting over the last few months. In the last 2 months, I've sold 6 of these plans, and one of them was a $500,000. The largest plan was $36 million, which was a little surprising to some in the industry because some people thought of this really as a small plan solution. It's really what I would call an all plan solution. And I think a lot of that's driven by this institutional lineup you can use for $1 million plan, a $10 million plan, and a $40 million plan. With that, thank you very much for your time. My great colleague, Jason's going to take over and I'm the sales guy, so he's going to talk about the nuts and bolts. They never have the sales guy talk about the nuts and bolts. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jason.
Thank you so much. And, I just wanted to thank everyone with RPAG. I feel like we've had a long-term trusted relationship, and I feel like bringing together the experts to focus on what they do best. We're working with RPAG. We're working with Pentegra, who is very well known and has done an outstanding job with, I would say, one of our largest pooled plans. And when you're looking at the overall strategy using FlexPath, we feel like we've got a path for success. And when you look within the roles, Empower really is going to be in that record keeping space. So again, we are here to provide the same exact experience as Marty had mentioned when it comes to the mobile app, the website. This is one of the best opportunities in the industry to work with a great provider who not only can serve the pet market, but we are trusted to work with you also on all the 401ks that we work with. And within the pooled plan, again, you have a trustee, financial professional, investment fiduciary, or 338. The 338, of course, is FlexPath, and Pentegra acts as a pooled plan provider, TPA, and 316. So next slide, please. Let's talk a little bit about the roles and responsibilities. So again, record keeper and custodian. With Empower, we are the plan record keeper. We provide the participant services across all adopting employers. So again, all these individuals, and they can be working from different types of industries, can join into this pool collectively. You have the pooled plan provider. So the plan administration, the name fiduciary for the PEP, again, this has already been registered with the DOL and the IRS. We have the 316 plan fiduciary that oversees the day-to-day administrative work of the plan. Again, as I mentioned, we have the 338, the trustee, third-party administrator, and the adopting employer. I'd like to say the reason that this is green is those individual employers that are joining the PEP, they're there to have a great experience, to be taken care of, and to feel like they are everything from the plan sponsor's perspective. When you look at those adopters, this is about making their lives easier. If there's one thing about the PEP, it may not necessarily be less expensive, but it's definitely overall an easier experience. And we are here to guide the ship and make sure that this is running smoothly. We understand for you, we want to make the RPAG advisor's job easier. And we feel like within the PEP solution, we've got a streamlined process that is working very well with Pentegra. Next slide, please. Let's talk about the guiding principles. And again, we want this to be efficient, defined offer with a straight through processing, no approvals needed. This should be simple. The pool plan provider executes the documents. Pricing and Power Select in the pricing grid. We make it simple within Power Select. You have one investment lineup within the PEP. Pentegra acts as the third-party administrator in 316, and the advisor compensation. There is flexibility in how you want to be paid. Ultimately, that is an important deal within this PEP, is if you wanted to have a hard dollar fee or basis point fee, you can decide what that compensation looks like. Administrative ease. We want aggregated reporting with access to those details at the click of a button. Make it easy, make it simple for you guys. And again, a partner-driven service model, clearly defined with the advisor, pool plan provider, 316, 338, trustee, and TPA working together. Our guiding principle, again, is to make this easy for you. Next slide, please. Now, to talk about the national network to support advisors, with RPAG, many of you already have established relationships, maybe even be considered some of our closest friends and families with your local regional sales directors like Marty Smith and others that are out there in the field. So again, with over 59 regional sales directors, 15 regional sales managers, a group of internal sales directors, we are here to support your business and to partner with you. And we will be here every step of the way to make this as smooth of a process as possible. And with that, I'd like to open up again with any questions. The Q&A function is live. So if you had any questions, we'd be happy to go through and review those questions. Looks like we might already have some coming through.
Yes, we do have a few questions that came in. We'll start with the first one. What does PEP do that an individual 401k cannot?
And I can address one of those key differentiators. This still is a 401k ultimately, but one of the key things that you have, if you have 100 participants or more within an individual 401k, many of these plans are subject to an audit. That is potentially a large expense. So when you're thinking about what is in the client's concern, the biggest thing that has come up a lot is what's going to happen to me if I have to go through this audit process. It's almost like a new language that they have to be able to understand from the auditor's perspective. To you as RPAG, you guys are the experts at what we do. But ultimately, a lot of times the question is, do we have some protection within the PEP? We do. So again, one of the nice things in working with the Pentegra, and Brian, again, joined the call, he's been there to help us through situations where people have come firsthand and said, this is what a painful experience the audit has been. And again, having that type of protection, participant notices, again, that's something that you wouldn't have to deal with necessarily within the PEP. So there are some differentiators, but a lot of it, when you look at it, it's very similar, but you do have this single lineup for the PEP. And you have, from the standpoint of everybody's experience, each of these individual adopters, you don't have as much work from a plan sponsor perspective, because a lot of this is handled by the pool plan provider. So if you think about it, take it as a 401k, but some stuff ultimately should be easier for you guys to be able to do. Hopefully that addresses your question, and we'll kind of go on to the next one. Leah, did you want to go through the next question yet?
Sure. Next question, can the 316 be executed if the clients don't or can't provide a full census file each payroll period?
And Brian,
Yeah,
I'm going to
Leah,
defer this question to you if that's okay.
Yeah, this is Brian. I figured that would be more for us. So of all the outsourcing that can be done, couple things are still left to the adopting employer, one of which is the data. So we're only as good as the data we receive. So whatever we get, we'll execute based on that. But if there's something wrong with that data, that's going to fall back on the employer. So I don't know if that answers the question. Can it be executed without? I mean, we can do what we're supposed to do, but if the data is not good, that could lead to some potential issues, which we can obviously help fix. But at the end of the day, and we're still trying to figure out payroll as a third-party administrator and fiduciary, and it's one of the hardest challenges we have without charging an arm and a leg for plans to adopt. But we're hoping technology can help us get to where we want to be with that payroll question.
Great, thank you, Brian. Next question is, how do we build the RPAG PEP solution into a fee benchmarking client proposal?
Great question. I'll take this one, Leah. These solutions are going to be built into our new proposal tool called RFP Express. RFP Express and Empower is going to be participating and is one of the the key providers on this tool that we're going live with in just about a month or so. They will be on the platform with their traditional 401k platform and offerings, as well as the PEP solution. So you'll be able to get instant quotes and instant proposals that incorporate the 316, the TPA costs, and the full price of the PEP. So this will be available. When it comes to other benchmarkings, think of like the plan fees annual fee benchmarking. That's a real simple tool. It doesn't quite have like explanations of 316 and everything else, but you can benchmark administrative costs, record keeping costs, advisory costs, investment costs, and against other 401ks. And so it will show well, but that's something for us to consider, is how do we build this PEPs. There's not really enough data nationally to provide a national average on PEPs quite yet, but that will be coming, I'm sure, down the road.
Thanks, Jesse. Next question is this one set investment lineup?
And Leah, I can answer that one. I'll even jump to the next question too, because I see as who's the 338. So I'll go into it. Yes, it is one set investment lineup currently. I think that it goes to the simplification, that we do want it to be a simple solution for these adopters, that there's one lineup across the board for everyone. For the 338, FlexPath is the 338. Ryan Hamilton has been a really great go-to person on the 338 side. So hopefully that addresses those two questions.
Thanks, Jason. Next question is, would the advisor serve in a 321 capacity or no fiduciary capacity?
They are not a 321 because obviously FlexPath is the 338. In my opinion, I think they're still in some fiduciary capacity to their client because they're helping them determine, is it a PEP, is it a standalone plan, is it something else? But it wouldn't be what I would consider an investment fiduciary capacity like 321, 338. And some attorneys would argue one way or the other on, are you a fiduciary if you're advising your client? I think at some point you are, but it's not an investment fiduciary.
And just one thing I would add too, if you have an individual participant, a high net worth participant, at times you're going to be their 338 because they may have other outside accounts and assets that you're assisting them with. So ultimately that line, like you said, it depends on how you want to distinguish who is going to be the role for the 338. When it comes to an individual participant, I think it depends on who's your client. If you have a high net worth client, it's your client,
Thanks, Jason. Next question. So kind of just want to get your thoughts on if there's any potential conflicts of interest in having the FlexPath 338 and using your own target date funds.
I would say no. I mean, what are your thoughts on this, Marty? I would say no, that there's not really a conflict because we don't own FlexPath.
Yeah, my first comment would be an attorney could sue you for anything, but let's not go down that road. But I don't think it is, because if you think about what FlexPath's created, it's really the BlackRock funds underneath and using the stable fund. So yes, it's a product they created, but I wouldn't think it's an inherent conflict of interest, but that would certainly be something for an attorney to say one way or the other. I see the next question. Can this solution be used not just for 401ks, but 403bs, 457s, all qualified plans? Not currently, and here's why I say that. Brian talked about Secure 2.0 coming out. Well, you're using CITs in this lineup, which currently can't be used in 403Bs. Now, it appears if Secure 2.0 goes through, you can then use CITs in 403Bs, and you can then use them in those types of plans. But currently, it's only 401k. And Brian, jump in if I'm missing something there. Am I correct on that?
You are correct. It's not just the CIT provision. The Secure 1.0 did not allow 403Bs in a PEP. Secure 2.0 will allow that if it passes. That's one of the provisions.
All right, the next question is going to be a good one for me because I will be here to help you with any existing Empower plan that you want to move into the PEP. I do work with, Marty Smith and other regional sales directors to make this as easy a process for you from a quoting perspective, but very similar that it's if you take somebody that has an existing 401k plan as an RPAG plan and you say, yes, we want to move that plan over to the PEP, there are some steps that we have to take similar to a conversion, but it's internal. The assets are here. So it's not like we're having to go out to a Nationwide or somebody else and acquire some additional assets and have it take a long period of time. It's more that there are steps that we need to do to make sure that the website, the participants are loaded, the payroll function has been determined, and I actually probably help you guys on the next payroll question. But yes, I mean, there are things that we do to streamline that process. And I will be here 100% to help you if you ever have an existing power plan. I'll work with your partner advocate or relationship manager and make sure that that is being taken care of for you.
How does an advisor justify their fee if a company goes into a PEP?
Yeah, and I think I can jump in here. What I'm seeing my advisors and consultants do is, number one, they're constantly reviewing, is the PEP correct? It might be correct for you this year, and 5 years from now, it might not be. Probably going to be, but who knows? So they're acting in that consultant role, determining, is it a PEP? Is it a standalone plan? Should it be bundled? Should it be unbundled? So they're doing all that for the client. And then a lot of the advisors or consultants are doing some type of education. Lots of times they may be integrating and doing the C-suite education or things of that nature, and more in depth. That's what we're seeing a lot of the advisors and consultants do. And that's the value they're bringing here to make sure the PEP is correct for the client and on an ongoing basis it's correct, as well as doing some of the high level education, or I should say high net worth education to participants in the plan.
Great, thanks, Marty. Next question, does the advisor's cost get included in the PEP or is it separately billed to the plan sponsor?
I think most common I've seen in the plan expense account, where you'll see whether you were doing a basis point or a hard dollar fee. Typically, you'll see it's through the PEA, where you guys are getting paid. It's very similar, like I said, on the 401k plans that you guys are doing. A lot of times you'll have your compensation through the PEA, but if there's other ways, always reach out to me. I'm happy to work with our partner services team if there's any questions.
You can do it either way, but Jason's right, about 80% of the time it's part of the plan. But that's your decision as the advisor.
Great.
I can take the next one, Leah. So Pentegra is acting as the pooled plan provider, as well as the 316 for the PEP.
Great, thank you, Brian. The next question after that is a SDBA available?
Yeah, so self-directed brokerage accounts are not available. Some of that is when you look at the structure of the PEP, you want to make sure that it's kind of a set lineup for everyone, set process. And then when you start to add in like SDBA, you got a lot of what is the pooled plan provider doing to monitor the investments and to make sure it's appropriate. So at this point, right now, it is not a function of the PEP.
Thank you. The next question is regarding payroll integration. Does Empower utilize a third-party service to support a 360 integration? If so, who is used for this?
Yeah, we've got a lot of great, I'll let Marty answer this one, but we have a lot of really good 360 integrations.
Yeah, I was going to say it could be either way. We have about 125 last count of, we either have 180 or 360 with directly, but then we have started to see more clients, and we don't care, use organizations like Payroll Integrations, Inc., who has started to create these very efficient software to take it from your ADPs of the world and others and bring it into our system. So we have clients that do it both ways, and we're agnostic. It's what works best for the client.
The following question, will the plan name be customized to the company or must it include RPAG PEP as an example?
So it's usually set as the 401k plan adopted by name of employer is how we've seen it mostly done. But it will always have the 401k plan because that is how it is registered with the DOL, and that's how it's going to be audited and tracked as the single plan.
Or two more questions. I have advisor question and the 316 providers because per ERISA, they are responsible for everything, including hiring and firing an advisor. How does Pentegra view the advisor, and do they have the ability to remove an advisor as the 316?
Yeah, so I'm going to clarify this. So as 316, that's the fiduciary administrator. We've never hired or fired an advisor in our capacity as 316. Now, specific to the PEP, the pooled plan provider, yes, is ultimately responsible for hiring all service providers. We went through a very thorough due diligence process in building this PEP. We've gone through Empower service agreements, we've gone through FlexPath, we've gone through RPAG, and frankly, we're satisfied. So for us to fire an advisor off of the PEP from an adopter employer, never happened, but I would say where we'd see it, negligence, breaking the law, probably the only two scenarios. We're not looking to make that decision. That's really a decision for the adopter and you as their consultant.
Great, thank you. Will the PEP take a plan immediately that has to undergo corrections due to several years of errors in operation?
No, we would want to see everything corrected beforehand, and we can absolutely help with that, but we would not want to put them into a new plan until everything has been corrected from any previous errors.
And Lee, I can help with this one.
Great.
On the advisor, what times I see happen is you may have an adopter that chooses to go basically want to be removed from the PEP. Maybe they no longer see that there is the audit benefit or other reasons. They can absolutely go out of the PEP if they choose to. And whether they choose to go into it or decide to deconvert out of it, they have options. So it's not so much from, you could still continue to, if this is a great client, continue to advise the client, and you may even continue additional roles and responsibilities after the fact. But they definitely have portability when it comes to going into the PEP plan as an adopter and going out.
Thank you, Jason. Wow, I think that's the most questions we've ever received on a webinar, but that is awesome. Thank you so much, everyone, for submitting your questions. If any more questions do come up after this webinar, please feel free. Like we said, you could reach out to your Empower contact. You could reach out to RPAG at support@rpag.com. We can help answer your questions, get you in front of the right people. But with that, we will go ahead and end our webinar. Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you, Brian, Jason, Jesse, and Marty for presenting. We really appreciate it. And we're looking forward to this new PEP solution that we have.